discussion about the bonfire of 4,000 regulations, which was just a gimmick, wasn't it, in Sunak's campaign. It's a huge distraction from the elephant in the room, which is actually the TCA, the Trade and Cooperation Agreement. And as a result of that, we find ourselves, for instance, unable to give state aid to critical sectors. We find ourselves unable to deviate from the EU in any significant way that could be part of an ambitious post-Brexit industrial strategy. And so, frankly speaking, no, I don't think we've really seen any form of serious Brexit yet. But to go down and get stuck in the mire of this, you know, his photocopy or shredder stunt and the 4,000 regulations, I mean, that's just pitiful. That's a nonsense. What we should be looking at is forming a comprehensive, solid plan for an independent future.
Right. So it's not independent. The UK is not independent at the moment?
In all but name. We're still in Brussels regulatory orbit.
Alastair Campbell, I wonder if the reason Labour did so well in the local elections in places like Medway, Swindon, Middlesbrough, because Sir Keir Starmer has managed to neutralise the issue of Brexit. And you could be in danger of blowing that up, couldn't you?
No, not at all. Look, first of all, I didn't say and haven't said that I think Keir risks looking weak. I don't think he does look weak. I think he's got a very clear plan for what he's trying to do. I'm simply
But you just disagree with it?
No, I don't. Where I disagree is on the politics of it. I don't believe that this idea that the dial is not shifting on Brexit opinion, I just don't accept it. And in the speech I made tonight, I quoted Wayne Gretzky, the Canadian ice hockey player. I skate to where the puck is going, not where it's been. Things are moving very, very quickly because...
In what respect?
Well, for example, that thing today, we're not going to agree on much, but Sunak was utterly ridiculous in promising something that deep down, by his own economic assessment, he knew was going to be damaging, which is why he's ended up stopping it. We've already lost 4% of the economy. We've already lost £40 billion of public services. The pound is weaker than it was. Growth is smaller than it was. Inflation is higher. It's not all to do with Brexit, but a lot of it is.
We haven't already lost 4% of the economy. The OL says over 10 years.
Our economy is much weaker than it was. And in every sector you talk to, they're now finding that whether it was Johnson lying about his oven-ready deal or Sunak telling us we're going to get this dynamic growing economy.
So you think Brexit's a disaster. So why aren't you saying to Keir Starmer, look, it's a disaster, say it, and that should be Labour policy at the next election?
What I've said is that I think in Labour's manifesto, they should say Brexit, we accept the referendum result, Brexit as delivered by the Tories with their bungled deal is not working. We are going to have to look at it again. That will involve some sort of renegotiation, and that is what we'll do if we get a Labour government. Be bold about it, be honest about it, because I tell you, that is where the people are.
Alex, your party and the kind of Brexit that you said that you want is not popular now. Brexit's way down the list of priorities when it comes to voters' concerns, and you and those on the right of the Conservative Party don't have the kind of leverage that you used to have anymore.
Yeah, I'd actually agree with what you're saying in that respect. And of course, public opinions and attitudes shift. I don't think all of a sudden people have fallen out of love with Brexit. I think a lot of things have happened since Brexit, and people have fallen out of love with politics. They actually don't feel like they can trust their politicians to deliver. It's been 7 years since that vote. And we're finding that, I mean, in total, actually, about 260,000 EU laws are in UK statutes, and they'd found 4,000 down the back of the sofa they wanted to do something about.
Yeah, but they're laws that were passed by UK Parliament.
Well, they were, but they weren't able to be properly scrutinised. No amendments were able to be. No amendments were able to be made. Those laws were not made by the British people for the British people. And of course they weren't. I've sat in that Parliament. I was elected to it. Don't try and pretend I don't know how the EU system works.
I'm talking about our Parliament enacts EU law.
Of course it does.
They are not EU laws passed down.
Look, we're not put into UK statute. I'm not actually denying that. But what the point of this is...
So don't say that they're laws that have been imposed on us by Brussels. They've been enacted by UK Parliament and government.
There was no way as a member of the EU. There was no way as a member of the EU to reject them, and you know that as well as I do.
Your MPs here could. That's what made sovereignty here.
We're going down a rabbit hole, and this is a pointless debate.
Well, that's because you all talk such rubbish when you come on these programmes.
Excuse me, that's just unnecessarily rude.
But it's true. I'm sorry.
You haven't actually let me talk, so if you would let me talk, perhaps you might agree with me.
Well, let her finish, and then I will come back to you.
Because I don't think you're, particularly being a good contributor right now, because you're just being essentially rude.
Make the point.
Now, what I think a lot of people, when they voted for Brexit, wanted was essentially this country to take its future in its own hands and to make decisions that would benefit our industries, that would make decisions that benefit our communities, that would actually lift the wages of those who are the lowest paid, to actually secure our borders, which is something something else that's not been done to actually enable our fishermen to have a self-sustaining industry and actually make a profit from it. None of these things have actually been delivered. None of these things have been delivered because, frankly, we've got a government that treats Brexit like a gimmick and doesn't have any courage or conviction to see it through. And
Rishi Sunak is a Brexiteer. Rishi Sunak is a Brexiteer. Boris Johnson, well, eventually was a Brexiteer.
Was he? And I don't remember seeing Rishi Sunak holding many Corix boards and taking selfies on the campaign trail, so I would actually deny that he might be as much of a Brexiteer as he says he is. But frankly speaking, we're in a situation now where the government should be actually relishing the opportunity to take control of various laws and being able to put into place things, like I said, state aid into critical sectors. We're seeing right now AstraZeneca moving to Ireland. We're seeing car manufacturing moving to China.
OK, Alastair Campbell, your turn.
Will any of these people who fought so hard for Brexit ever face up to their own responsibility and face the fact that what they all promised was a pack of lies, what they all promised was never going to work? None of you have ever brought forward a plan that says this is Brexit and this is how it works without damaging us here in the UK. And when I say you talk nonsense, let me finish. All of those laws that you talked about were enacted by elected British governments and elected British parliaments. The fact that you in Europe couldn't do anything about it underlines that the sovereignty lay here. So all your lies about taking back control, more money for the NHS, sovereignty, immigration, the rest of it, you've failed on every
I knew you
thing.
were going to come up with, the money for the NHS. Nothing to do with me, not my campaign. And it's very rich, a man who essentially was part of telling lies to invade a country, to accuse me of dishonesty.
I think you might have lost the argument there, my dear. If I may patronise you even more. Honestly.
No, that's it now.
Yes, I will.
No, that's
sorry.
it. No, that's it.
No,
that's
sorry.
it.
You bring these people on, you never challenge them. You let them talk utter rubbish about Brexit. And it's happened on the BBC for year after year after year.
OK. I am not going to take that from you. With respect, Mr. Campbell. Thank you.
You don't have to.
Thank you very much for being on the programme.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on the programme.